more things that we want to go over. And like I said, all night we've been taking fantasy questions. Anything you guys want to know, you just tweet it at SportsVaultIona. I'll answer the questions. I've been doing it all night, and we got another one, so let's get right into it. And somebody asked, thoughts on the low production of high tier running backs this season? And sat down and I thought about it for a second, and it's a good question because it really is true. You look across the board, obviously in most fantasy leagues, the first 10 picks, aside from Calvin Johnson, the most have all been running backs. Normally, most had Adrian Peterson, C.J. Spiller, Trent Richardson, LaShawn McCoy, Doug Martin. Overall, though, I mean, the user asked a very good point. I mean, Trent Richardson has had a terrible season. Once he got traded to Indianapolis, since then he's looked lost in that offense. Hasn't been able to get anything going, so he's really struggled this season. So that's a good point. He's one of the ones. Doug Martin, obviously, even though he got hurt, and that shouldn't count too much. Even the games he did play, he really couldn't get anything going. He really struggled. So Doug Martin, another one that just proves the point. Ray Rice is another. I mean, he had a good game last week. But overall, he's been terrible. I mean, man, he cannot explode. He just hasn't had the side-to-side movement. The Ravens' offense as a whole has struggled so far this season, but overall, he as well has not played well. Other than that, LaShawn McCoy, he has had a nice year. Adrian Peterson has had a nice year as well. So those two have played well this year. Chris Johnson, another one. I mean, he's played well the last 2 weeks, but overall he has really struggled this season. So you just keep thinking across the board. C.J. Spiller, another one. I mean, he's had spurts of greatness, but he's struggled overall this year. So most of the high tier running backs this year have really struggled. So I'm glad somebody asked that question. It made me think for a second, and it was pretty good overall. As we finish up this show, been going for 2 hours now. I'm going to highlight a few more of the NFL noteworthy ones. Tell you guys the picks. A lot of people have been saying to go back into the picks, elaborate a little bit more on them. So we'll get right into it with some more of those. One of the tough ones this weekend is at the Packers and the Vikings. In this one, it made me think a little bit. I kind of went back and forth on this one. I think the Packers, I'm not sure what to think of. Without Aaron Rodgers, they've lost a lot of steam, a lot of momentum. The Packers have played, and the Vikings, they're just a mess. Christian Ponder, you're not going to get much out of Christian Ponder. He's really struggled so far this season, so I'm not too sure what you're going to get out of him. I picked Minnesota in this one. Didn't feel too comfortable about it. I think the line, the Packers are favored by about 5.5, so the Packers are favored in this one. So you might want to give a think. I mean, look, either way, this is a tough game to pick. Packers are home, so you might want to look at them there. But the Vikings, I just haven't seen anything out of Scott Tolzien that scares me so far, so that's the reason I went with the Vikings. The Vikings still have a decent defense, should be able to confuse him a little bit, so I went with the Vikings there. The next one you have is, a lot of people have been asking me as a Chargers fan what to make of this team. The Chargers coming off, since they've came off their bye, haven't gotten a win yet. They've struggled the last couple weeks. But here's something to think about with the Chargers is, they really have been in every game that they've played. There really hasn't been a game that they haven't been in this year, aside from Oakland early in the season. That was just one of those kind of weird games. But all the games they've been in have been close. They've had a chance at the end of every game to drive the ball down the field and either tie it or win it. Or prevent the defense from coming down the field to win it. And here's an interesting about the Chiefs is, every game the Chiefs have played is, they haven't played any game where they've had to put up a lot of points. Even in the Bronco game last week, they held the Broncos to 27, one of the lowest amounts they've scored all season. So the Chiefs, the way their offense works is, they take their time, they slowly move the ball down the field, and I think that the Chargers defense has played pretty well. Chuck Pagano, the coach of the Colts, his brother, is the Chargers defensive coordinator. He's a pretty smart guy. He's got that defense figured out pretty well. So this game, the Chargers have a shot here. I think the Chargers are due for a win, and the Chiefs could be down for a letdown after that loss last week. Lose a little bit of steam. I picked the Chiefs to win, being home. Arrowhead's a tough place to play, but I wouldn't count out the Chargers in this one. The Chargers are still a pretty good team. Phillip Rivers has played well this year, so I'd keep my eye on that one. And the next one some people have been asking me about is, since the Browns are favored, they want to know with the Cleveland Browns and the Steelers. The Browns, like I said, I've said throughout the show a couple times, the Browns are a very good defensive team, a young defense. Their secondary is good. They can get after you up front, so they're pretty solid up there. I picked the Browns in this game. They're at home. Vegas has loved the Browns this year, so I would definitely keep my eye on the Browns. I picked them to win this game. Pittsburgh offensively had a nice week against the Lions last week, but that was just because of kind of the Lions' stupidity in their play calling last week. So the Browns being home, they've played well this year. It's not going to be too of a high scoring game, so I don't think that's going to put too much pressure on Cleveland's offense, so they should be able to come out with a win there. And the other one is the Rams and the Bears. The Rams and the Bears, it's a tough one. Both teams have been disappointing this year. Kellen Clemens has played a little bit better than I expected when he had to come in for Sam Bradford. And Josh McCown, man, you got to give the kid credit coming in for Jay Cutler being hurt. He has played very, very well. I really like what I've seen out of him. This game, though, I went with the Rams. The Rams being home, they have played a lot better at home. I do think Chicago is due for a loss. Chicago's defense is terrible. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, man, they cannot stop anybody. It's amazing how that defense has fallen so quickly without Brian Urlacher and Lovie Smith. I mean, they've definitely gotten better offensively, and that's what you need in the NFL now. I mean, defense can only get you so far. You got to have good offenses in the league right now. And Chicago has definitely shored up that offense. So they will have a shot in this game, but I like the Rams' defense. I like them to keep the game close. I think that the Rams will pull out a win at home here. And like I said, we're just going to keep moving along with the games until we get to the end. And we got the Raiders and the Titans. And this is a weird one to pick. Fitzpatrick and the Titans, a little bit disappointing, especially the loss to the Jaguars. Should never have lost that game. Very disappointing to lose that. The Raiders, too, though. Matt McGloin, I thought they were going to lose that game handily to the Texans last week, and McGloin played pretty well last week, so you got to give him a little bit of credit there because he did play very, very well. The Raiders are home this one. I sat long and hard thinking about this one, going back and forth. Wasn't sure which team I was going to take, but I ended up going with the Raiders in this one. I just think normally, most of the time, I say, when in doubt, take the home team. So I went with the Raiders here. Not sure what you're going to get out of Matt McGloin. He definitely started off, made a name for himself with a nice game last week. So I went with the Raiders there. And the Monday night game we have as well. I mean, talk about two good Monday night games in a week. Last week you had the Panthers and the Patriots. This week you've got the 49ers on the road against the Redskins. The Redskins have just had a very disappointing year. 49ers really need a win. Struggled. They lost the last two. So I think they're due for a win. I like the 49ers in this game. I think Colin Kaepernick gets back on track. This Redskins defense has struggled this year immensely. They've really struggled this year. I think the 49ers, they'll run the ball effectively with Frank Gore. They may be getting Michael Crabtree back for this game. That'll help open up the field, the passing game, and that'll be big for this game. So I'd look out for that game. It's a good game to watch for. Two pretty good offenses, so look for that one. And other than that, the final one to go over is you got the Jaguars and the Texans. And a lot of people make fun of the Jaguars, but look, they are not a very good team. They have no quarterback, but they've had a little bit of life the last couple weeks. They've definitely gotten better over since their bye week. You could tell this team has a lot of fight in them, and the Texans are a mess right now, offensively, defensively. I thought the defense could hold them over with the struggles that they've had, but Case Keenum, he had a really bad game last week. Matt Schaub came in, couldn't get it done. So there's a little bit of controversy there. Gary Kubiak might be back down on the sidelines, but there's not much to work with there with the Texans. So with that one, I did end up going with the Texans, but I think the Jaguars are going to give them a run for their money. That's going to do for all the NFL ones. We're closing down this section of the show. Been on for 2 hours. You got a great football game on tonight. You got the Saints and the Falcons. Went over that for you guys. You got the Clippers and the Thunder. Good game. The Denver Nuggets and the Bulls. That one too. Tomorrow I'll be on the Sports Vault 12:30 to 1:30 with my partner Big Shot Rob. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And like I said, you got this thing going until midnight. So stick around. You got a lot more talented shows coming up. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll be on tomorrow.